Oh, wow. This texture is the same, well, not the same, but it reminds me of the feeling I got when I heard Olsen for the first time, which was my favorite from Music Has the Right to Children. So I just felt bathed in the texture and enveloped by it. And I love that type of tapey distortion. It's really, really, really warm. I think it's also the sound of this gorgeous scale called Lydian. Which I think already has a feeling of curiosity and a little bit playful, but it's a great way to open your eyes. Like, yeah. So that was Ready, Let's Go without an apostrophe. Ooh, why do they do that? Oh, it's like the off-center graphic. Okay, the next one is Music is Math. Agreed. This was wonderful. I really like this one. It starts out very song-like. And I guess by that I mean, I'm going to be able to play this on the piano, no problem. Like, there's nothing about it that is outside the bounds of conventional music. But then these manipulated voice samples start to creep in. And I really mean that. They creep in, and then they take over, and the music goes away, and you're left, and then the drums go away, and you're just left with this like ghostly presence. So that I wasn't totally expecting. It was fun having those moments of realizing that that was what was happening. But back to the beginning. So this could be a little out of tune in my keyboard. So let's see. Yep. Okay, is it closer to G or F sharp? So it has a key, it has a scale, it has recognizable chord progression and everything. And I know some people watching this are going to be like, why are you doing this? Like, it's Boards of Canada. Like, you're not supposed to like figure out the notes and, whatever. And I just have to say, like, well, if that's not your thing, then this isn't going to be your video, because I like to do that. And I think as long as it isn't just noise or it's not just drums, I can, and I'm going to. So here we go. I think it's going to sound amazing on the piano. That's what I would probably put in my right hand, and then I'd put the bass in the left. So starting out here. So this is really pretty. It's kind of an ambiguous note choices. These are the kind of notes you would pick if you didn't want to fill in all the emotional blanks. Essentially, it's kind of the skeleton of a musical scale. And then it starts here, which I love, goes home, and then my favorite part, you probably saw it wash over my face, is what's called the flat six. It's just the best, just the best. Such a moment, and then goes back. It also goes up here. The bass didn't come in right away. And I think the drums maybe came in before the bass. I can't quite remember, but there was a moment where they took the bass away, and it was this kind of bells, piano sound, and then and the drums, which are really loud. I actually had to turn it down on my system because it was so loud. And then the bass came back in, and I was like, oh, like they really knew how to play with that expectation and that feeling of weightlessness when there's a drums but no bass line, I should say. It's just like feels incomplete in every fiber of your being. It's like, and Aphex Twin does that a lot too. And then I noticed that the bass is syncopated, at least against the drums. So the drums will tell you where the beat is, and it's like in 4/4, classic. But then the bass changes, I think, on the 8th note or whatever before the downbeat. So it's anticipating, it's rushing on purpose. It's always consistently anticipating the beat when it changes, which is very cool, very Radiohead of them. I really, really like that little touch. But it's absolutely gorgeous. The drums at first weren't my favorite, but then they brought in another layer that had a little, almost felt like chewing. It had a very visceral, I felt a very visceral experience, I guess, listening to it. It felt very human, like, or maybe not human, but just like organic. It had like kinetic, organic movement to it. It didn't actually sound like chewing. That's just the best thing I can think of. Very, very cool song. I will definitely listen to that one again. Next is Beware the Friendly Stranger. Man, I just feel like now I'm going to always associate the sounds of children. Hi, sweet girl. Of children playing and laughing and, with Boards of Canada. The nostalgia factor, the texture, the crackling is very, very front. And just the processing on whatever they made the other layer with almost sounds a little bit like flute-like. Look at those toe beans. Sorry, too loud. All right, what 2 keys is it going to be between this time? This is the closest it's been to an actual standard tuning. That's exciting. Okay, so it kind of sounds like these 2 chords, essentially. This is called a diminished chord, and in the diminished chord, its skeleton is called a tritone, and it's like a box that's actually falling apart. It's not strong. This is strong. That's the perfect fit. That's what, like, a minor chord has that, and the major chord also, but it's very dissonant. Okay, so you get this really mysterious diminished chord, and then it goes down to B flat minor, C diminished, essentially. So this gives me feeling, it feels a little bit like playful, but a little bit mysterious. The sound, oh God, what as it reminds me of? Almost like a carousel. What is it called? Carousel. I was about to say Ferris wheel. I was like, that's not right. Oh, beware of the friendly stranger. Well, that makes sense. Next is Gyroscope. It's not ready for that. Gosh, they love counting, don't they? You know what I think makes that sound like not like a normal song? Oh, there's probably a lot of reasons, but the main thing is that the drums and the reversed main harmonic layer and the counting are not in sync with each other. You know? The drums themselves, it's like this is already kind of interesting and novel. The way it's constructed, it sounds like really interesting. Again, sort of relatable, visceral samples, almost like it sounds like someone running up, or I don't know. There is something compelling about that expectation, I think, that we have for music that has a beat to be completely broken and reevaluated. A lot of it sounded reversed. Not maybe the drums, but yeah, like all the harmonic elements sounded reversed. So they had that swell that is created when you reverse, and you have the transient kind of at the end. There was another reversed layer that came in kind of near the end that was cool. Maybe some strings or something like that. The counting was creepy. I heard them count down to 0, which was also interesting. Oh, I wanted to make a comment about the album cover again. I was staring at it and thinking, this reminds me of something so familiar. And I thought, wait a second. The Chemical Brothers' Come With Us, which came out a month before this, or maybe even a matter of weeks. Look at that. They feel so aligned. The yellow text in the corner, the same color scheme, sort of a radial feeling, a figure, a silhouette, like in red. I mean, yeah, I'm just so curious now. That is just a wild coincidence, isn't it? Or is it? Or like what? Like, that's also a very cool album, by the way. Next is Dandelion.
When lava pours out near the sea surface, tremendous volcanic explosions sometimes occur. In time, submarine seamounts or islands are formed. When lava flows underwater, it behaves differently. A new contraption to capture a dandelion in one piece has been put together by the crew. The preparation for a dive is always a tense time. When lava pours out near the sea surface, tremendous volcanic explosions sometimes occur.
What strikes me the most about this one is having reversed this one part and then just repeating that over and over again. Because of that swell, essentially. The swell and then the sudden stoppage of it is so sudden feeling, and it is this weird, it felt like a very weird, unnatural kind of repetition. Like my body was so stunned every time it just stopped. And then it would start over again. And I would feel almost this feeling of foreboding, just like a little bit of like, oh my God. And yet it was so pretty. So that was a weird feeling, but it's quite pretty. Again, there's nothing terribly unconventional about it. I think it's more the tone that's unconventional. The a lot of their tones are being, warbly, kind of pitch bendy. Things are sort of detuned. That's the word I'm looking for. A little bit detuned. Next is Sunshine Recorder. I love this one too. This is going to be a good road trip album. Really cool drum beat. Once again, it's almost like it's kind of a trip hop or hip hop drum groove, but with some fucked up things about it. Like this one has some reversed sample that kind of flips through. And then they use that as they slow it down more and more as sort of a drum fill, a transition element to the next section, but that stumbling, flipping feeling, again, very kinetic, visceral, not like drums aren't kinetic, but I don't know, I guess some drums can feel more stationary. These always feel like they're going somewhere and you're having to go with them. And then this one's got essentially two chords, that very floaty kind of recorder sound. Maybe that's not the recorder. Well, anyway, and there's one of them is a little creepy at first, but then they add this other melody on top that just makes it feel like a Radiohead song, which I like. And we're going to figure those out. And there's also a bass line, and the bass line is now not anticipating the beat. It is late every time, consistently. I think it's a whole beat late. No, it's okay. Okay, it's a beat and a half late. That is so cool. Because then every time you get to the next phrase, you have this feeling, had this feeling of like expectation and suspension, and then the bass would drop, and then I'd like go back into my body. That was just so cool every time. I forgot to talk about the rhythm. Right. So the timing of this actually has a time signature that is unconventional. You could count it different ways, but I was counting it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. That's sort of how I was grouping it. I thought it was in 4/4 until suddenly I was like, wait a second. We just started over way faster than I was expecting, and that way faster measure was just half time. I mean, half the size, 2 beats. So you can count along as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's where the chords change, is after that 10 beat, I guess, phrase. So you could also just say it's in 10/4 and nobody would argue with you. I tend to like to group things into smaller packages of beats because that's just how it sounds to me. So let's figure out the chords, because I got to figure out that there's this one note in that actually had 2 melodies they added. They're both fantastic, but the first one, okay, so, okay, so minor 7th chord. Oh, they're both minor chords. That's what's going on. Okay. Closest to E. Probably just these 3 notes. Okay, and then we get the, okay. Okay, so there's all the notes. Instead of it arranged in this way, this is the like most basic way you could stack up this chord. They take this 3rd and put it up here. Really pretty, because then you kind of have the sound of this major chord over this. I love that. Okay, then I think it goes up to G minor next. Yeah. Maybe, was it also 7th? Okay, just straight up G minor. Okay, so here's the dealio. This is an example of mode mixture, where 2 chords are hanging out in the same chord progression, but they're not from the same scale or key. And so it can create some really interesting harmony. And that's one of the reasons why it reminded me a little of Radiohead. It's just like that is their jam. But it's the way it's, there's tons of mode mixture in grunge, but this doesn't sound like grunge, right? Okay, so it's the way they do it. So but it's a little spooky. 2 minor chords that aren't related in the same key. It just feels like it gives me this like deep feeling that something's not quite right, and it's kind of is a little bit universal. There's always exceptions, but I was just recently analyzing the Nightmare Before Christmas score, and it's just minor chord after minor chord after minor chord after minor chord, all related in the same way, 3rds apart, and it's every time it shifts, you're like, it just I don't know. It's not the same with the major chords. It's only the minor chord thing. It makes it sound spoopy. So that's what's going on, but let's figure out this melody that comes in. Hey, check out that kick. Oh, and they don't have a snare on the beat 4. It's just in the 2. 1 and 2. I love a lopsided drum beat like that. Okay. That's where it ends up going. It's this note that I'm obsessed with. It's a 7th. This is cool though, because they only move it up a little bit to get there. Stepwise motion. And it's really satisfying. I just made up a new word. Satisfying when the small motion results in such a huge harmonic change, and it lines up with the next chord in a way you just can't really predict. I just didn't expect that note to go there, and yet it's just a little step up, and it's just like it feels like it belonged there, and yet you didn't see it coming, and it's just beautiful. So that's very and that Radiohead likes 7th salon. So okay. We're going to move forward to In the Annexe. Sounds like a flat 6, baby. Nice. Their tones are just so yummy and so tapey and distorted and warm and yeah, I get it. Okay, this is gorgeous. I really like this one too. I haven't yet heard one I didn't like. It's got a pairing of 2 chords and they're in different keys. I swear I heard that note. And then I do hear it. I hear it. I swear. Okay. It's there. It's maybe all of them. All the guys. But then I don't hear it on this chord. So why are those so pretty? Because they're 7th and 9th chords. And they introduce dissonance into the chord, but in a way that is very mathematically, it's like not overly mathematically complicated for our ears to figure out. So it's a very pleasing dissonance, I think. See, that's not dissonant, but that is, and so is this. It's all jazzy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's nice and uneven. I mean, it's still 4, 4. Oh, and it's really syncopated. 1, 2, and it's nice. Okay, so. I think it goes to C minor 7 to G minor 7, I think. There could be some other notes in there, but I believe that's at least the basics of what's going on. So if you're wondering, is it just the same chords as before but moved down a half step? No, it's not. So pretty, all the minor chords. Yeah, so pretty. And then back up. So the reason why the key change is so jarring is because we were in the key of C sharp and now we're in the key of C. And so they're only a half step apart and it's very chromatic. And those keys have nothing in common with each other. Literally, it's every other note. Nothing in common. So that is an interesting choice. Next is called Julie and Candy. Whoa. Wow. To me, this album is so much more harmonically accessible than Music Has the Right to Children. It's not that difficult to figure this stuff out on the piano, and the choices they're making are a lot more aligned with my expectations. Let's put it that way. I love the choices they're making, though. There's a ton of flat six stuff going on in the bass. This one is closest to being in like F, F, and it's these three major chords. And this is another case of mode mixture. And that, remember before I was talking about this minor mode mixture, or these two minor chords that aren't related? This is what happens when you put the major chords that aren't related next to each other. So like these, this chord is not related to these two. Normally it would be, sorry, F minor, but it's very much F major. And there's this, that kind of ascending thing happening. And it happens over this one too. And you can hear a little bit of the dissonance, but it sounds great. And then this one. There is like a bass line, which is what's giving you that progression. And the progression itself is a little uneven in terms of like how long they spend on different things. So they start here, this is home, then they go here, then they go up here, and then they go back down, and then back up, and then finally start over. So it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks phrasing instead of like the traditional 4 chunks, so to speak. So I really like that feeling of getting pulled back by the chord progression. The whatever is creating the other harmonic elements, like not the bass, is tripping me up. I was like, also sounds kind of like a carnival, almost sounds like a whistle of some kind, like those whistles that you would like go through the harmonics or something. What are those called? But reversed. And some other sounds. It was just the first few seconds just really shocked my brain. I was just like, what am I listening to? And then I got used to it, and then I almost stopped thinking about it. And then I was like, okay, I should pay attention to the melody. Like, what is the melody? Like, what is making that? And I was like, I have no idea what's making that and how I'm really hearing all these notes. The rhythm is there, but it's like kind of a little bit loose. And then the drums, yeah, really groovy, kind of trip-hoppy. Does sound a little bit like patchwork of samples as well, but I love the slow tempo, and the whole song felt like it had a crescendo. It was just building, 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 and I couldn't quite figure out how though. I was like, what usually when something's building, I can tell specifically, like, oh, they added this layer, oh, this got louder, whatever. This one was, I'm sure I could figure it out if I listened to it again, but it just sort of snuck up on me. I was like, this is getting bigger and bigger, and I don't know why. Here's the smallest weird number. Nostalgia. Did you hear at the end how they changed the processing on this to be suddenly so much more stereo and have reverb? And the contrast that you can hear back to back like that. I don't know if it's actually mono to stereo, but it feels like that. And you realize in that moment, I realize in that moment, excuse me, how much depth is missing from the more tape sound, that nostalgic sound. But that's part of what makes it sound nostalgic. This one really sounds like a VHS tape. This little opening part here, maybe. So interestingly enough, that did not sound reversed until near the end. That was crazy. So I don't know what's playing that, but it could be a fiddle. It also almost sounds like Indian music, but it sounded maybe like Dorian. No, Mixolydian, sorry. Right? Da-da-la-la-la. It's very folky. And then it changed completely to sounding just like a straight up VHS tape or like like some old special. And the warping of the tones is what makes it sound that way. But it's also like, what were the tones to begin with? What are they? Sorry. It's kind of these two chords over and over again. Again. So there's the two moments where it sounds dissonant, almost sounds like two things that are overlapping that are in a different key. I can't think of any other band that sounds like this. Oh. Hang on. I've either heard this or it reminds me so much of A Beautiful Place Out in the Country, which I know very well. All minor chords. Oh. I've heard this. It's got like a bumpin'. Yeah. Oh. Well, I don't know how I know that song so well, but I do. So they took this minor chord somewhere, they sampled it, and they pitched it up and down to create a new chord progression from it. And as a result, it's another one of those kind of weird mode mixture-y minor chord creepy ones. Okay. And then it goes up to, and then, yeah. But it still follows our expectations in terms of some kind of chords that lead you in a direction and then it all comes back to home, and you get that feeling of, yes, at least I feel it. And then, then they sampled this thing that's like a little arpeggio, like a little flurry, and I believe it's a suspended chord, and they put it over everything, and I am obsessed with it. Let's find out. Okay, so it's these notes. That's what's over the, okay. All right, sus2. So this is the root, the second, the fifth. Oh my God, that's so gorgeous. That's ridiculous. Love it. It's just so trippy. How pretty. And then the vocal is very strange, but it fits. It fits in a weird way. And that makes sense because the chords are weird. So the melody is going to have to be a little weird to fit with the chords. So for a moment, this is seventh releases, but then it's the seventh of this one and it stays. Now it's the third, now it's the ninth, and then it's back to seventh. So it's just, it's like it fits, but in such a strange way. How cool. I just gotta say, I love the drum fill. It almost reminds me of the drum fill that they use in Six Underground, the Nelly Hooper mix. But this one it halts more. It's like, it's just so good. Every time I look forward to it. What a dope song. Yeah, that's really cool. And then 1969, sounds like a robot. They've vocoded that. They vocoded it. I'm so glad to have rediscovered that. I really want to know how I found it. Let's listen to Energy Warning, and then we'll close this portion of the listening party.
Energy is becoming one of our country's greatest concerns. If we don't start working on energy conservation, there may not be enough energy to go around by the time I'm a parent. So Gary Tech learned about how we can solve some of our problems through alternative energy sources. You can learn more about energy too. Call your county cooperative extension service for more information. Conserving energy is everyone's responsibility. Call 4-H to find out how you can do your part.
Interesting. Okay. Aside from the subject matter, it does feel kind of urgent. And I think part of it is the synth that's in the back. I don't know what it is. Sorry. It's probably not. I don't know. Is it all samples? Is it like all samples? But that one it propels you forward. But also there's a little bit of a foreboding feeling because of the chords from wherever they got those are parallel fourths or fifths or something, which has this very strong, decided sound. It's not very forgiving sound. Like that kind of sound. This is awesome. I'm really enjoying this one. I know this one too. Oh my God. I heard this a long time ago. Oh my God. This is making me feel like it's putting me back in like college. When I first heard the chords, I was like, oh, that's the Boards of Canada sound. It's these minor chords that they kind of pitch up and down. But then this other feeling of familiarity came over me. What a cool experience. You know that feeling when you hear a piece of music that you heard when you were like during a formative year. And it feels like time travel. It's a very weird feeling, but I got that. So that's cool. It's a string sample and it's a minor chord and it's got that same quality as the other two from the first half of the album. Now I can't remember maybe it was 1969 and one of the ones from like the very beginning of the album that had a sequence of minor chords that involves going outside of a key, which again is a very natural thing when you take a sample that's a chord and you pitch it up and down. It's not going to necessarily adhere to the notes inside of a scale or in a key. So this part, dun, dun, it's the same chord, it's just that they are voicing it differently. So you hear the da da, sorry, da 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 da. Same chord, and then the fifth on the bottom. Okay. Yeah. I love these, whatever sounds those are. They're rhythmic and they kind of squeak. It's a sound that has a bloopy low end and then a really like almost like feedback, like high end. And then it transforms and you can hear a wah, 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 wah. And they're on the offbeats. Almost sounds like a tabla. It's kind of fluty. This is like a pretty slow beat. But then there's 16th note subdivisions are really strong, which I love that feeling where you have this dragging overall pulse with a quickening of the other instruments. You get this really weird feeling of like being dragged and rushed at the same time. It's the same reason why I really like listening to Halftime Jungle. So if you like this feeling, you might just check out like an artist like Ohm Unit. That synth, I swear it's a synth. It sounds like a trancey synth that comes in later. Kind of opens up. And I love the drum beat. It starts to feel like you're on train tracks that, you know, and I feel like this, I feel like that has actually influenced some of the drum beats I make now. There's something about that. And the way it goes, and the way it hits its peak on like an offbeat, that's really cool. Let's listen to Opening the Mouth. I wonder if I've heard this one because it fades into it, right? It doesn't not sound familiar. Is that breathing? Yeah, that's scary. I like it. It's like the wind moaning at you. Flute. I swear I've heard this one too. Maybe my friend Jake, he was into interesting music. He played me Sigur Rós. Maybe LimeWire. Oh, this is Alpha and Omega. I don't recognize it. So many flutes. They're very fluty. It's like a hand drum, but muffled. That one made me feel kind of anxious. So that one had like this repetitive, like arpeggio sequence. An arpeggio is also is like the Italian musical term for a broken chord. You know, instead of like let me pick some fucking weird chord just to make it fun. Instead of playing this, which is a block chord, you break it up and play it over time. It can go up, it can go down, it can go up and then down, whatever. So there's like 4 chords and they're all broken. And they're all a little, the sequence is a little unusual, for sure. It's not something you would hear in a pop song, for example. No way, no how. The chords themselves weren't necessarily weird, but just the way they were, how they were next to each other was kind of weird. And this one didn't really have like a bass line the way the others have. So it's less supported as like the harmonies, just less supported. Really cool drums, lots of hand drum samples, but they sounded very precise. It was very satisfying to listen to. There was a flute sample that was in a different key that was repeating, and then they would pitch it up and down. They did it down an octave first, and then they like pitched it up to some completely unrelated key. And when I heard it like moving around, I felt a little like anxious, especially when it was like really dissonant and it felt like things were out of control and like I was like hallucinating. It was a very like all these sounds that are supposed to be like pleasant and things you've heard before, but the way they were arranged just really put me on edge. Let's check out I Saw Drones. He's still purring. Oh my gosh. Both kitties. Couldn't be happier. Got my keyboard, got all my music, and I got my kitties and my plants. Got that warm tape sound. Weird. Interesting engineering. It was mostly over here, but it did some, there's some interesting filtering going on. It sounded like the same, that was an arpeggio. And they just pitched it around. But yeah, they're like really good at like finding cool places to go with these samples. Sorry. There we go. So it's just that, but moving around. I'm not sure where it moved. Let's just try something. All right. Okay, so this is the devil is in the details, which is one of my favorite expressions. God, it sounds like insects. Well, I loved it. It was my favorite one. I don't dislike it. It's just my body didn't like it. That was very scary. It just sounds really disgusting. And like, I'm not even like that afraid of bugs, but I guess like all humans, the thought of like being swarmed by bugs is scary. And that's what it felt like. It felt like being swarmed. And the voice had some kind of modulation on it that also gave it this very bizarre texture. I almost want to say ring modulation, but I don't really know. And that was creepy as fuck. And then, so yeah, I feel weird, but I figured out what's going on with the other part. So there's this like little harp part, you know, which is like a little bit of a departure in tone. It still has that warmth, whatever it is. It's probably a sampler, and it's a major ninth, which is this big dissonant interval. It sounds like this. It's one of the best. Let's just put it that. My hard drive filled up. So anyway, we're back at it. I don't remember what I was talking about though, but it was something about the devil is in the details. Oh yeah, the ninths, right? Okay, so there's this thing where it's like, I know it ends here. The little harp. Do, do, do. Sorry. So that's kind of an interesting choice, and that makes things feel a little strange, but I love that interval. And then, what was the other part, guys? What was it? Is that? And then there was the... I don't remember. Okay, so dun, da, da. So a ninth below that. Interesting. Very cool. Very cool. And then... nice delay. Right, the voice. Okay, so these... we have thirds. This one, then this one, then this one. Now, what makes them sound a little creepy is just the fact that, again, they don't really fit into a key. So there's something a little bit off-putting about them, but they're also really beautiful, the way they swell. I have no idea how they made this happen because it sounds so natural. The way the notes like flow into each other doesn't sound like discrete samples. I'm not sure what they did there, but while this is all going on... Sorry, nights are hard. It's not terribly dissonant. It's really not that. It's just unexpected. Okay. We're moving on to A is to B as B is to C. I don't love those sounds. I respect them, but I don't love them. It's kind of like an organ. Ooh, odd time signature. 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now it's Spanish, then French.
Gosh, they love counting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now it's Spanish, then French. We'll say that twice
I'll be gone about a week. Oh, by the way, I owe you what I've been arguing about.
So fucking weird. That's like a drug trip. You know what it's like? It's like disfigured nostalgia. It's like taking the face of someone you know and just rearranging it until it's hardly recognizable as a human anymore. Which is like cool but terrifying and so disorienting. All of those sounded like samples from, old TV programs or something, and just mangled. Okay, here's another short one. Over the Horizon Radar. Don't betray me. This is nice. That felt like a palate cleanser. That was really nice of them. It's a little out of tune with the standard tone. It's still a little weird. Like if I put in a root position, we have this. What's this? A little bit of that Lydian sound again. They like to, okay, so there's some more reversed samples here. But yeah, it has a more reverent sound, and that would make a very pretty piano cover. All right, next is called Dawn Chorus, and that name looks familiar, and so I'm wondering if I've heard this song before. It's so out of tune and warbly. I think I have heard that before. Maybe not the whole song, but like that maybe the middle chunk, because I feel like I recognize the way that those samples of whatever they are, animals, people, something alive, how musical they sound in context, how they've made them like melodies. So there's like chord progression here in a beautiful scale called Mixolydian. It's the most enchanting side of the scale. It's the same chord progression in Moby's Porcelain. So that's it's kind of a magical sound. All right, which one do we want to pick? Let's see. Let's do B flat. So pretty. So that's what's going on in terms of the chords. And then there's the sample. One of them is like, what is it? kind of sounds like ha, ha, approximately, and then yeah, so it almost sounds like a suspension thing. Sorry. Okay, the fourth. Will sound like that. It's pretty. I think the thing that really took me by surprise, though, is just how that swell of the chords. It's really just the first one, actually. It's just the first chord. So incredible. It's got the presence and fire and depth and mass and texture of Olsen. Whatever that sound is, I freaking love it. I want to die to that sound. You know, that's like so powerful, and having it swell. Oh my God. So that the first time that happened, I felt like couldn't breathe. So cool. And then great drums, trip hoppy, super slow, tons of space. Those notes, we got the seventh, we got the tonic, and the second. Just what an incredible atmosphere and environment they created. It's so perfect. It's so rich, it's so sparkly and so deep and so textured and so everything. It's just fantastic. It's so beautiful and transcendent. It feels like. Next is driving station. This one's also Mixolydian. God, can you imagine a movie scored by these guys? Or maybe you don't have to. Maybe they did. Because that sound design is very evocative. It reminds me of like a aircraft taking off machinery, but also just like insects. I love that feeling when your body rhythm like follows the rate of whatever modulation that was. You know, up to. It just feels like you're moving with it, as if your like blood like slows down with. I know it doesn't, but it can feel that way. It's really cool. I mean, if you think about it, I'm just gonna spitball. Our body is rhythms. You know, this whole system works because there are these cycles, these rhythms that are going on all the time. So I think in some ways, rhythm is the most primal kind of music. This is like a really pretty simple kind of childlike piano piece with this very machine-like dark sound design over it. But I could figure it out for you. It's in E flat mixolydian. So I hear it in left hand, and there's these thirds. Let's see. Sorry. Sorry. And then that's that mixolydian part. And then back up. I just heard some note that was not mixolydian though. But anyway, yeah. So it's a sequence of these thirds over these. This is like the root and the fifth of a chord. Sorry. There we go. I already forgot what key we're in. It's pretty. It's interesting. Next is You Could Feel the Sky. Whoa. Really cool Foley kind of sounds of things like almost like leather being like twisted. That's so, again, it's so visceral. And I think there's like the sample of like or something. There's like something of voices kind of going between a fifth. So they just kind of moved that around. It starts here. Then it goes down here. And it goes up here. And then it goes up half step. And that's the weird spot. That's like that's weird. But the bass, which is clearly something they chose, goes. Suspension. And then this creates this seventh chord, which is so pretty. And then that's just that. I don't know, it just feels like, or sorry, that chromaticism feels very boards. It's very boards. And there were some voices, otherwise, different voices, that sounded more like singing, but in a kind of creepy way. Very interesting. Oh, all right, next is Corsair. VHS. Isn't it crazy to think that people that did not grow up with VHS tapes and have never heard that sound, like, what would they think of this? What would it do to them? Because I feel like for a lot of us, there is this primal nostalgia. Like, it just pulls on you, pulls on your cells. Like, if you don't have that, what is it like? What is it like to listen to this? Ooh. Flat 6 vibes. Reminds me of like John Hopkins and Radiohead. So why it reminds me of those bands? I mean, especially John Hopkins, he has a tendency to construct these like long, like these prolonged chords that slowly, like one note will change maybe and it'll become a new chord, and then another different note will change, it'll become a new chord, and you kind of climb the scaffold with him, and then he starts it all over again, but it leads into itself like a snake eating its tail so perfectly. This has that same exact vibe. It feels as if it's in a key that it never returns to its home. All right, so it goes from this is called a G, this is a G flat major 7th chord. And then it's gonna go to a G minor 7th chord. Sorry. So 2 notes had to change. This one goes like this, and this one goes like this. Watch. The rest stay the same. They're connected by this G and this B flat. Sorry. Then this note happens, which pulls you into this note's still there. All these notes. There's really no beginning or end. It's just a cycle, and we just happened to show up when it was in its cycle, and then we left, or it showed up in the middle of its cycle and left. Either way, we crossed paths, and it's eternal. That's how it feels. It's eternal. It's called Magic Window. Is it silent? Or is something wrong with my... All I can hear is my cat licking herself. Alanis Morissette. Why are you so petrified of silence? Here, can you handle this? Apparently not. I was thinking, okay, if it's silence, then maybe it's to make the record a certain length. I mean, it certainly is thought-provoking to put silence in anywhere and force someone to listen to it, basically. And that's art. Wow. Okay. This was amazing. This was such a good album. And now I'm remembering a bunch of you also said that this one was creepier. And I don't know if I had that experience. The devil's in the details as the exception, for sure. And really enjoyable to get to like play all of it. If you enjoyed it and you want to support me in doing what I'm doing, as you've noticed, I don't do sponsorships. I don't do ads. If there are ads on the video you just watched, they're not for me. They're going to the publisher. I have no control over that. So I'm supported by Patreon. So if you want to make sure this keeps happening, I mean, it's not like I'm trying to threaten you. Like, if you want to make sure, but yeah, but for real, that is my support. So anything helps. You can join for as little as $5. And you get lots of really cool perks. There's a song request listening party at the end of every month, and I'm almost always able to get to everyone's requests. And we do album listening parties at higher tiers, and I have a whole educational tier if you're interested in learning more about how I did that. Ear training lessons and all sorts of videos and behind the scenes of me making music and things like that. And then there's a cool Discord community that you can lurk in or you can participate. We do a monthly songwriting challenge. And anyway, I honestly think that we built a really cool community. It's not huge, but it's big enough that there's a lot of diversity and interesting things going on, and a cool way to make friends. So yeah, the next video I need to make that I would say is in this general category of weirdness is Autiker. So on Patreon, I'll be doing a poll to pick that record because there are a lot. And with that, I will bid you adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you so much for the suggestion, and I will see you next time.